When Sonya Massey dialed 911 that night, she was scared but hopeful. She believed help was on the way. Instead, what entered her home wasn't safety. It was fear, confusion, and a gun pointed at her. Her last words were quiet but firm. "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." Seconds later, she was shot. Now, more than a year later, the man who pulled the trigger, former Deputy Sean Grayson, is on trial. And the question still hangs heavy: what really happened inside that kitchen?
Get your ID first and then...
One task at a time here.
Okay. Let me
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID is.
You have that stack right there, maybe?
Okay. 1 second.
Check on her.
Let me get this.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
Rebuke you in the name of
You better fucking not. I swear to God, I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the fucking pot! Bring emails now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078.
That single question has kept her name alive for over a year. Because Sonya's story isn't just about one night. It's about trust, power, and what happens when that trust is broken. In the early hours of July 6, 2024, Springfield, Illinois, was quiet. A summer rain had passed. The streets were empty. Sonya noticed something outside. A noise, a shadow, maybe someone near her car. Like most of us would, she reached for her phone and called 911. 2 deputies answered the dispatch. One of them was Sean Grayson. What began as a simple welfare call would end in tragedy that still shocks people today. Investigators later pieced together the timeline. The officers searched the area, found signs of a break-in, but no suspect. They then went to Sonya's front door to speak with her, calm her nerves, and check inside. For a moment, everything seemed fine, but something shifted. A small exchange, a misunderstanding, an unnecessary command, and fear began to build on both sides of that doorway. By dawn, Sonya Massey was gone. When the body camera footage was released weeks later, the reaction was instant. News outlets replayed the same few seconds again and again. People cried, shouted, demanded answers. Clergy in Springfield held candlelight vigils. On social media, Sonya's name trended beside the phrase, "Faith shouldn't be fatal." The footage, investigators said, showed no reason for deadly force. Sonya hadn't threatened anyone. She had been trying to follow directions. Her tone, even at the end, carried fear but also calm, as if faith itself might still fix the situation. Now, in 2025, the courtroom is where that night is being relived. Family members sit through testimony they can barely bear to hear. Prosecutors describe a pattern of reckless behavior. The defense repeats one claim: Grayson feared for his safety, but the public sees a bigger picture, one that stretches beyond 2 people in a kitchen. They see a system that keeps allowing troubled officers to move from one department to another. They see a woman who trusted that system and lost her life because of it. That's where the controversy lies. Not just in what happened that night, but in what happened before it. The hiring, the warnings ignored, the policies that failed to protect a citizen who believed the badge still meant something. Chen?
Prosecute the police! No justice, no peace! Prosecute the police! No justice, no peace! Prosecute the police! Say her name! Sonya Massey! Say her name! Sonya Massey! Say her name! Sonya Massey! Say her name! Sonya Massey!
Outside the courthouse, supporters hold signs that read, "Justice for Sonya." Some carry small crosses. Others carry photos of her smiling with family. One woman holds a handwritten note. She called for help. Who answers for that? It's a question that cuts deeper than any headline. Inside, reporters whisper about the mood of the jury. Each time the body camera video is mentioned, the room falls silent. Even those who have seen it dozens of times still shift uncomfortably, as if the air itself grows heavier when her name is spoken. People across the country are watching this trial, not just for a verdict, but for meaning. Because Sonya Massey's story has become a symbol of faith, of injustice, and of how fragile trust can be when power isn't checked. Her death has sparked debates in churches, schools, and state offices. Police training experts talk about fear responses. Pastors talk about grace. And ordinary people ask a painful question. If it could happen to her, who's next? People called him Officer Grayson, but behind the uniform, there was another story, one many didn't see. Sean Grayson wasn't new to law enforcement. He'd worked in different departments before joining the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. And like many officers, he wore the badge with pride. But that pride came with something darker, a temper he couldn't hide. Former colleagues have quietly said he was hot-headed, quick to anger, the kind of cop who took things personally when someone questioned his authority. One officer described him as someone who didn't know when to walk away. Another said, he thought control meant fear. And maybe that's what happened that night. Because when Sonya called 911, she wasn't fighting. She wasn't violent. She was scared. Her voice trembled. She said there was someone in her house. She wanted help, not trouble. But by the time Grayson arrived, the air in that small kitchen shifted. Reports say Sonya was holding a pot of water. Some say she had been cooking, others say she grabbed it out of fear. Either way, she wasn't armed with a weapon. What happened next? No one outside that room truly knows. But we know this: an officer trained to protect pointed a gun at a woman who had called for help. And when she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," something in him snapped. Some say it was fear, others say ego. But whatever it was, it made him pull the trigger. 1 second, one decision, and everything changed. People are asking, why did he shoot? Why didn't he de-escalate? Why didn't he wait for backup? Grayson later said he feared for his life. That phrase, the same one we've heard in too many cases before. But even officers in his department couldn't understand it. A woman standing in her kitchen, praying, and somehow, that's a threat? That's the question burning across America right now. And then there's his record. Sources close to the case say Grayson had faced complaints before. Nothing that made headlines, but enough for people to whisper. There were reports of excessive force, misconduct, aggression during traffic stops. Each time, it was brushed off as just part of the job. Until now, people are wondering how many red flags were ignored before that bullet left his gun. Because Sonya Massey's death didn't start that night. It started long before, in a system that let men like Sean Grayson keep wearing badges, even when the warning signs were clear. When you give power to someone with no control, tragedy is only a matter of time. And Sonya became that tragedy.
I'm hoping for the family to seek justice and have some closure. I'm looking for Officer Grayson to be held accountable for his actions.
Sonya Massey! Sonya Massey!
Hoping that ultimately
the sound of that single gunshot didn't just echo through Sonya's home. It ripped through the nation. Within hours, her name, Sonya Massey, spread across social media. First, it was whispers. Then, it became a storm. But people wanted to know, how could a woman who called for help end up dead? How could an officer who swore to protect be the one to pull the trigger? The police released a short statement. An officer-involved shooting occurred. Cold, empty, no emotion, no accountability. But Sonya wasn't just a headline. She was a mother, a church member, a neighbor. She loved singing gospel songs on Sunday mornings. Her friends say she was soft-spoken, but firm in her faith. The kind of woman who always said, "God will fight my battles," and that's what broke people. Because when she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," it wasn't just fear talking, it was faith. She believed she could speak peace into a violent moment. But instead, her faith was met with a bullet. Churches began holding vigils. Candles lined sidewalks. People carried signs that read, "Justice for Sonya," and everywhere you looked, someone was holding a photo of her smiling face. But then came the controversy. Some officers defended Grayson, saying he followed procedure. Others, even within law enforcement, said enough was enough. A retired deputy said on live TV, "There's no justification. You don't shoot someone praying." That clip went viral overnight. And just like that, Sonya's story became more than tragedy, it became a mirror, a reflection of everything wrong with how power, race, and fear mix inside police encounters. People asked, would the outcome have been the same if Sonya wasn't a black woman? Would Grayson have reacted the same way if she had been white? Would he have pulled that trigger at all? The questions burned louder than any official report. Online, her last words became a cry, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." People started repeating it in videos, art, and protests. It became a symbol, faith standing against fear. And yet, the system moved slowly. Sean Grayson was placed on leave, then fired, then charged. But for Sonya's family, that wasn't justice, it was survival. Her mother said in an interview, "My baby called for help. She didn't call for death." The video of that moment, Sonya's final seconds, spread online. Millions watched it. Some couldn't finish it. Others couldn't stop replaying it. Because it wasn't just about Sonya anymore. It was about every woman who called for help and never made it out alive. Every mother who trusted the system that failed her. And that's when the protests began. Outside the courthouse, people shouted her name. Inside, lawyers fought over whether the officer feared for his safety. And across the internet, one question kept repeating. If saying "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus" can get you killed, what protection do any of us have left? After the shooting, people started asking the same hard question. How was Sean Grayson still wearing a badge? It turned out this wasn't his first department. Records showed a trail: short stints, transfers, quiet exits. Everywhere he went, there were whispers about his attitude, his temper, the way he talked to people he was supposed to protect. But nothing ever stuck. A note in a file here, warning there, then a move to another county. That's how it works sometimes, a system that moves the problem instead of fixing it. And because of that silence, a woman who trusted the badge ended up on the floor of her own kitchen. When the news broke, Springfield went quiet, then angry, then broken. People gathered outside the courthouse with candles and signs that said, "Justice for Sonya." Some cried, some prayed, others shouted because words weren't enough anymore. Churches spoke her name from the pulpit. Pastors said, "We cannot call 911 and die for it." Her friends said she was kind, the kind who would share food with strangers. And now, her story was everywhere. On phone screens, in headlines, in late-night conversations. The sheriff's office called it a tragedy. The community called it something else. A pattern, because too many names have come before hers. Too many families left asking why accountability only comes after a body hits the ground. The trial began, but the weight of it felt larger than one courtroom. Every witness, every clip of that body cam, carried the question: how many red flags does it take before someone loses their life? And when prosecutors played the footage again, Sonya's voice trembling, Grayson's anger rising, people in the gallery turned away. Some wept, some prayed under their breath. It wasn't just evidence. It was a mirror showing what happens when the system protects itself more than the people it serves. Her death became a rallying cry. Young activists painted murals of her face. Mothers marched holding photos of their own sons and daughters. Social media lit up with hashtags, #Justice for Sonya, #Say Her Name. And behind those words was a deeper fear that the next call for help could end the same way. Reporters dug into Grayson's past. They found performance reviews that mentioned attitude concerns, complaints that disappeared, supervisors who admitted off record that he was hard to manage. Yet no one stopped him. The department said they followed protocol. But what does protocol mean when it leads to another funeral? Even some officers began to speak quietly about how training isn't enough. One said, "We're taught how to shoot, not how to pause." Another said, "We wear cameras now, but cameras can't stop a bad decision." And that's the hardest part. Sonya did everything right. She called for help. She trusted the people who showed up. And the system failed her. When the courtroom doors opened for the first day of trial, it wasn't just another case. It was a wound being reopened, one that the community had never healed from. People filled the seats wearing shirts with Sonya's name. Some held her picture close to their chest. Others came in silence. Because grief doesn't always have words. Outside, the crowd was restless. Anger mixed with prayer. Strangers hugged each other like family. Everyone wanted the same thing: truth. Inside, the cameras pointed toward a man once trusted with a badge. Grayson looked down, expression blank. But every person watching could feel the weight of what he'd done, the life that ended because of one moment of rage. One decision he couldn't take back. And people can't stop asking, how did a simple call for help turn into a death sentence? How many warnings were ignored before this happened? Every witness that takes the stand brings another layer: policies overlooked, complaints unreported, supervisors who look the other way. And for the first time, the system is being forced to answer the question it always avoids. Who do we hold accountable when those sworn to protect become the threat? What makes this case sting even more is what it represents: not just the killing of a woman in her own home, but the betrayal of trust. Because Sonya believed the police would help her. She believed in the law, and that belief cost her everything. Now, her story isn't just about tragedy, it's about reflection. How much power should one man have? What happens when that power goes unchecked? And who gets to decide when fear becomes an excuse for violence? Faith leaders say her death is forcing people to confront something deeper: that justice isn't just about verdicts. It's about humanity. It's about compassion. It's about doing what's right when no one's watching. The trial continues, but for most people, the verdict has already been written in their hearts. They've seen enough. They've heard enough. They know that Sonya's death was more than a mistake. It was a mirror held up to everything broken about the system. And as the world watches, one truth remains: Sonya called for help. She deserved safety, not bullets. Now, her name has become a movement, a voice for every person who's ever been failed by the system they trusted. Her final words still echo, not as pain, but as strength, the reminder that even in fear, faith speaks louder. Maybe that's what keeps her story alive: not just the tragedy, but the faith she carried until her last breath. Faith that still moves people to speak her name. Faith that demands change. And that's why this story matters. Because silence protects no one. And every time we speak her name, the world is reminded that justice isn't optional, it's overdue. So, if you've watched this far, don't just scroll past. Share her story. Talk about it. Remember her. And if you believe stories like Sonya's deserve to be told, subscribe. Because truth like this should never be buried.